Okay, hello everybody. It's Paul here. It's just after midnight on the 7th of April 2016. We got another installment here. We're going to talk about the life and times of Robert Nelson. This is part 13 of hashtag 3, or section 3, which is section 3 is it's the section we're doing that's all about his life. All right, you can pick it up from where you left off there.
Okay, what I'm going to do at the beginning of this session is I'm going to turn the Wayback Machine a couple of years previous, a little more than a couple actually, back to 1994. I have to explain that I'm going to be telling about a channeling that happened that is similar to one that happened back in the 1970s. Let me set the situation here. I had met a woman who apparently she and her husband had worked for what we call the secret government. She told me she had a black level clearance. Both she and her husband had to get permission from the government to be able to even go out of the country for a vacation anywhere. Evidently they were working on various engineering projects, at least one of them concerning the F-16 fighter. At any rate, this woman, as she's talking to me, she said that when she was 16 years old, she was working illegally for apparently the CIA as a nurse.
Why illegally?
Too young to be employed.
Oh, what?
Yeah.
So she was underage. She was under 16,
She was
and
16.
Okay, and she was working as a nurse, and you can't be a registered nurse at 16, right?
Right.
Wow.
She said she actually held me when I was a baby.
Oh,
And,
so she was working for their secret.
Yeah.
But still, 16.
I know. She said that she saw my name on a list of abductees.
Uh-huh. Wow.
When I was a little kid.
Wow.
One evening she wanted to go with me to this hypnotist I've spoken of who lived in Davenport, Florida. The man often used his skills to help people stop smoking or cut back on eating. I didn't go to him for that, obviously.
And this is the guy who he was like a Renaissance man, this guy, right?
Very much so.
No, you're talking about? Yeah. He was into a lot of things. He made his own jewelry too, I think.
He made jewelry, he did silversmithing, he built the place he lived in. He was a photographer. He was heavy into real estate. He was a millionaire and you'd never know it. Very intelligent, very interested in everything from UFOs and ETs to metaphysics and spirituality. He always had some of the most interesting speakers and teachers for different meetings and classes that he would, invite people to. He often went to a place, and I think I've mentioned the name already, in Florida called Casadega, which is a spiritualist town there, a little town. And
it still is?
Oh yeah. The spiritualists go up to New York for the summer, they come down to Florida for the winter, and it's Casadega, New York, Casadega, Florida.
Oh, no kidding.
No kidding.
Same name of the towns, huh?
Yeah.
So it's been like that for a long time?
Oh yeah.
That's neat.
I used to go over there once in a while in Florida to Casadega, and I really liked it. There was this one minister, I would be sitting in on his, it would be a Sunday afternoon church service, and numerous times he would, talk about embarrassment, he would point at me in the audience, point me out and say, "You should be up here doing what I'm doing." And I'd be sitting there going,
"Oh my God."
That's happened to me a number of times in different spiritual
If I had
settings.
$1 for every time somebody told me I should be a preacher.
I know. You have a lot of dollars. Anyhow.
Yeah.
This hypnotists knew people like Belk Lindsay's, Belk of Belk Lindsay's fame, clothing store down south. I don't know if you have them up here or not. He was a friend also with John Lear, Learjet.
Yeah.
And
You met him too, right?
Oh yes.
Yeah.
In fact, one of the people I met asked me to do an out-of-body experience to go check on Area 51, and I did. And he said it was extremely accurate because he knew somebody who actually worked there.
You did like a remote viewing thing for that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, I should say that remote viewing is more of a mind's eye, where you did out of body, which is way more accurate than remote viewing.
Well, remote viewing can be very accurate too. It really can be. And they're Merlin, the
Silly.
cat. Merlin's bumping the camera. He's having fun. Wow.
Go ahead. Don't mind me.
Just holding on to the carpet. Was I'm trying to count it. Out of body astral projection is like a different layer or different level of the out of body experiencing. Remote viewing is like picking a point where you want to know that you exist. Take a infinite graph. Pick a point and be there.
Yeah. But I mean, it's still, it's still imagination, kind of, because they come out with people who do remote viewing, they come out with these images,
sure,
and they do these sketches where if you're, I mean, it's vastly different from out of body. If you're doing out of body, you're there, man. I mean, you're seeing it in in living color, just like
Well, really, that can depend too. There are people who will, like myself, who will do remote viewing, and they get a full picture of everything that's going on.
Well, they might be doing that. They might just be doing out of body. Then they might have made the jump.
It's not the same as astral. There are a lot of forms of out of body, though, and the main ones are like astral projection.
Yeah.
And then there's another one where you do remote viewing. And in some cases, you'll get a symbol, or you get a little piece of a picture or something when you do remote viewing. Other times, you can actually get a full, big range of what's going on. I mean, it's godlike. Like I told you during the Gulf War, the first Gulf War, I was seeing these old-style missiles and hearing the word Scud.
Well, that's pretty good. I've read, when it was first released, when people were writing books about it, that is, people that used to be remote viewers in the Army were writing, like self-help books teaching people how to do remote viewing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they were talking about, they would give us a point, that would be completely abstract to us because they didn't know, where it was or, what it was. Sometimes they wouldn't even know, what city or town. They would just like,
mm-hmm.
give like, coordinates, and let the higher self like,
do the guiding
kind of thing. But and then these guys, for the most part, I mean, none of them saw anything. I mean, these guys were like learning this stuff cold.
Yeah.
And little by little, the guys that started to get it were like coming up with like shapes and abstract
mm-hmm.
pictures. Very, they would like draw drawings of what they were seeing. A lot of times it was just like like small kind of drawings that small kids do, because they weren't artists either. So they didn't have a lot of skill in terms of that either. And when these things were proofed out eventually, then they could see the relationship between what was reality, what was really there, and then how it lined up. And it wasn't perfect by any means.
Yeah, that's a level of it. But as you go further into it, you can do better, a lot better.
Yeah. Yeah, well, evidently, I mean, a lot of these guys, when the military stopped doing it,
They say they stopped doing it.
Well, yeah, I was just going to say that. But a lot of these guys that started that and got out of it, went right into doing it for big companies, like helping oil companies find oil and, crap like that.
Back in the 70s, when one of our Apollo moon capsules was supposed to be making a lunar landing, one afternoon, my mom actually came to pick me up from college. I didn't drive at the time. And before she got there, I was doing remote viewing out of body over the lunar surface in space. And here I see the lunar lander still orbiting the moon upside down. And I'm thinking, why was it supposed to have already been landed? What's going on? And I'm hearing the word gimbal engine, and that didn't make sense to me. Well, my mom greets me with, they haven't landed yet. I got in the car. We went home and they were showing from the command module a picture of the lunar lander still orbiting upside down just like I'd seen. And they said that the engine, the onboard engine, didn't gimbal properly, didn't respond properly for them to be able to turn the craft over and make a proper landing. Yeah. Finally it did, and they landed all right. But that's one example.
Yeah. Well, back to this other story. So
okay, so this nurse, who at the time I met her was a nurse she'd retired from the government, if you actually ever do. She was a nurse with the county school system. She worked with microcephalic children.
So eventually she did become a real nurse.
Well, yeah, she had been a real nurse for quite a while, though.
I'm just saying, initially, the story started out when she was, underage working for the CIA.
But when I met her as an adult, she was...
No, I understand.
Probably in her 60s. Or 50s. No, 60s. She wanted to go to this hypnotist with me one evening for a session. I was going to get him to help me to remember some facts or facets of a recent abduction. Get more information on how to fight back and against being abducted. And so here the guy came from southern Georgia, so he really had quite an accent. This hypnotist is leading me into hypnosis for remembering an abduction. The school nurse was sitting across the room on a couch watching the proceedings. She wanted to see if maybe she might in the future want to be hypnotized to remember her abductions, because she was an abductee too. And all of a sudden Michael comes in. I don't need to be hypnotized for him to come in, but that's what happened. And at one point, Giles very rightly, very wisely, said, can you give us some proof you are who you say you are? Oh gosh, I mentioned his name, didn't I? Anyway, I'm sorry. Michael says, try to take the pulse.
Well, you didn't say his whole name, so.
Okay. And so Michael puts the arm out. He didn't say take my pulse, he said take the pulse. It's interesting, I always thought. Let me explain. When Michael comes through me, I'm aware of what's happening. It's like he wants everything to be open. I'm not able to control anything. I can't move my body or anything. He's in command.
Well, not if he's channeling.
Right, that's what I mean.
Yeah. Well, I just wanted to make that clear, because we talk to Michael all the time.
Yeah.
And you're just you're part of the conversation.
Right.
Usually. Like,
now, some other entities like Yared, my Atlantean son, I have to be told afterwards, or see a tape or hear a tape of what happened.
Yeah.
I used to channel JFK, I don't nowadays. But again, same thing there, people would have to tell me.
Well, since you mentioned him, why don't you say who he was to you? Because I think that's fascinating.
Well, actually, he was like assigned to me.
I know.
And to this day, I'm not...
Explain that.
Well...
I know what it means, but, these viewers aren't.
Well, basically all I remember about it is that after the assassination, he was assigned to me not really like a guide.
So like he's in the afterlife, in heaven, if you will, and as one of his duties, he's told to look after you.
Right. And I used to actually channel him from time to time.
Yeah.
Haven't in a long time, and actually I don't feel his presence around me.
No. He well, I forgot how he put it, but sometime shortly after he came here, we had a couple last conversations with him.
Yeah.
And he said that you didn't need him anymore, and that he was moving on, and I think partly because he felt you were more stable here because you were living with us and everything. So, but what was I going to say? Oh, the thing that is also interesting about that is that there's a lot of people. There's so many conspiracy theories out there, and not all of them are right or true. And one of them was that was going around for a long time. It probably still is that he faked his death, which to me seems like the stupidest thing.
Yeah.
Why are they adding him to that list of people?
They do it with everybody and everything. I think
They just
to.
about do.
It's compulsive behavior.
So when you had told me, and I'd experienced you channeling him, and I had some conversation with him, and I liked talking to him. He was real no nonsense, and he had some good input about. He had a whole idea of how if he was still in power, how he would start doing handling disclosure of the whole alien situation. Mm-hmm. Which I really got into talking to him about it. But so anyway,
all right.
Back to your core story here.
So the process is happening. The channeling of Michael is happening, and the school nurse couldn't find the pulse. I'm going to give her first name, Lois.
Lois Lane.
No.
I know, I'm just saying.
I know. I forgot the darn desk on the chest. She couldn't find a pulse in my wrist. Then she said, well, there's always going to be a pulse, even if just a minor one, in the carotid artery, even if there's no one in the wrist. She couldn't find a pulse in my carotid artery either. At that point, she did a hop.
That's the one in your neck for people that don't know.
Right. At that point, she did a hop, skip, jump backwards to the couch that she'd been sitting on across the room, turned sideways, put her hand over her mouth, and her eyes were real big. Giles says, well, if he don't got no pulse, what does that mean about his blood pressure? And the nurse yells out across the room, and it wasn't that big a room.
Yeah.
He doesn't have it.
Yeah.
Interesting. Then Giles says, well, Michael, why did you do this? And Michael said, by your standards, my son's quite dead.
Uh-huh.
He said, but I hold him as alive in my mind and memory, and I will return him to you, and his pulse will be reinstated when I return him to you at the end of the session.
I love that.
He said the reason that I did this was, one, to prove that humans are wrong when they think that the quality of life is dependent on the beat of a pulse.
Uh-huh.
He said, so you are wrong about that. Then he said, and because I represent the power of life beyond what seems to be death. And then he says, and I also represent heaven's generosity and heaven's beneficence.
Uh-huh.
Now, I felt during that time, I didn't feel any fear whatsoever. I felt like I was being almost like held in my mom's arms as a little kid.
Uh-huh.
I felt warmth. I felt everything was fine. And if I did pass on from that, hey, Couldn't have been nicer, huh?
Uh-huh.
But I knew that wouldn't happen. I knew I was safe.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
Did you have any particular thoughts, or were you just kind of like,
sort of like, this is neat.
and that's about it?
Yeah. I mean, I was still having some of my own thoughts about things that he said, independently of him.
Oh, I thought you never
through.
remembered anything when somebody channeled through you.
When Michael channels through, I do. When
Oh, just
channels
him.
through, I don't.
Oh, okay.
Like I said, it's like he wants everything to be open.
Right.
Typical heaven.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
He, at one point, said something about about the future. He was telling things that could happen in the future, and I don't remember now what they were. But I know that the session went for an hour and 15 minutes. Now, that whole time, I'm dead.
Yeah, that's a long time to not have your blood coursing through your body, let alone your brain.
I know. I'm dead during that time, and he's moving around my arms and talking, and like there's no problem.
Yeah.
Now, at the end of the session, he told the school nurse to come back over and take the pulse again.
Yes.
She said at first there wasn't any, but I wasn't coming back through yet. And when I was brought back by Michael, she said an irregular pulse, erratic pulse came in, and then it settled down to a normal pulse as I fully came back in.
Uh-huh.
Well, I opened my eyes and started griping because it was like I'd been to the eye doctor. My eyes were dilated. And
So the light hurt your eyes?
I mean, I couldn't even see things clearly.
Like that.
Drops had been used on or something.
Oh, okay.
The eye doctor. And at that point, Lois, the nurse, says, "What do you know about a corpse?" And I thought she was joking, so I quoted Dr. McCoy from the original Star Trek series. I was laughing, and I said, "It's dead, Jim." Like that. She says, "No, seriously, what do you know about a corpse?" And I said, "It's a dead body." Then she said, "Well, there are 3 determiners of clinical death that we in the medical industry know."
Uh-huh.
She said, 1, there's no pulse. She said, "Bob, you didn't have a pulse, not even in your carotid. There would have at least been a faint pulse there."
Uh-huh.
She said, 2, the skin's cold. She said, "Yours was, because there was no blood being pumped around to warm it."
Yeah.
She said, 3, dilated eyes.
I didn't know that.
She said, "You met all 3 criterion of clinical death." She said, "You were dead for an hour and 15 minutes.
Uh-huh.
And she said, "And yet there seems to be no damage whatsoever." She said, "At this point, I don't know what to do, or whether even maybe just to give up medicine." I said, "Well, I saw you hop, skip, jump backwards across the room and sit on the couch and turn sideways and cover your mouth." She said, "You couldn't have. Your eyes were closed tight shut."
She was just about rendered speechless.
Yeah. And I told her, I said, "Well, I saw you through my closed eyes because it was what Michael saw."
Uh-huh.
Then she goes, "Oh," like that. So that was...
Oh, so when he was doing those, he didn't even open your eyes?
No. And I was seeing everything he saw right through him.
Yeah.
Then Giles, before the session ended, asked, "Well, could you next time give us some proof that doesn't use his body?" And Michael said he would do that. About a month later, the next session happened over at Giles's place, and there were about 20 people there, and there were video cams and tape recorders, wires and cables going all over. I was seated in the middle of one end of the room. To my left, there was a row of pictures along the entire wall. The pictures were 8 by 11 photographs of country scenes that Giles had done, and he made frames for them. And on my right, there were 3 8 by 10 black and white country scenes, very nicely done, with huge rough-hewn oaken frames around them. Giles made the frames. They measured 24 inches across, and then vertically on the wall, 36 inches in length or height. Now, I'll explain why I'm telling you this. a little bit. After the session started, people began looking up to and pointing at the ceiling. Okay. I couldn't understand why. I couldn't raise my head to see, because apparently Michael knew what it was and he wasn't interested, so I didn't know what it was. Over halfway through the session, Michael requested a pitcher of water and glasses enough for everyone. So someone went and got those and brought them to him. He blessed the pitcher of water and then started pouring water to the different glasses. Didn't know until after the session that pitcher was faulty. It was damaged. The lid on it didn't work right, and you could not pour water out of it without splattering it all over. He didn't spill a drop. And he's walking around these cables and wires that I would have done a great face plant if I was. I'm a klutz. And there was no problem for him. Now, when he handed people water and they drank it after he blessed it, they said it tasted different. It didn't taste like tap water. It tasted fresher and cleaner, and it seemed like there was energy in it, and people were saying they actually felt better after they drank it. More alive feeling. And Michael did make a statement about living waters. Of course, I don't know if he was being facetious or if he really meant it that way or what. There's statements about that in the Bible. After the end of the session, when he handed my body back down to the chair where I'd been sitting, now, I could not have reached any of these pictures on either side. They were too far from me. He left. I came back. And people were saying, "Did you see what was on the ceiling?" And I said, "No." They said there was a luminous cloud or fog that developed 2 feet down from the ceiling when Michael started. That's what they were pointing at the ceiling about. Then they were talking about this pitcher of water and how it was impossible to pour water from it without it splattering. There was no spillage whatsoever. Then I happened to look over at the side of the room where these pictures were in a big long line the whole length of the room, these little 8 by 11 pictures. Starting with the center 2 pictures, they were tilted so they made a V shape. And all the other pictures were tilted like that, making a stylized pair of wings.
Wow.
Now, the big ones that I talked about, the 3 big ones with the rough-hewn frames, the center one was tilted badly. Giles comes up to me, here we go with the accent again. Giles comes up to me and says, "I'm going to give my insurance adjuster your name." I said, "What?" "I'm going to give my insurance adjuster your name." I said, "I don't understand. What's the problem, Giles?" And he said, "Look at them pictures." And I said, "Well, so one's tilted. Just, go over and straighten it up. Big deal." And he says, "That can't be done." And I said, "I don't understand." He said, "Them pictures is bolted into particle board wall. You couldn't move it without ripping the particle board." No damage was done. It was like reality was one way 1 microsecond and then different the next microsecond.
He's a time spirit.
It just, it kind of blew me away. But these were just samples of some of the sessions with Michael. I also, while thinking on the same topic over at his place, in 1991, I did an out-of-body excursion over Mars. I learned something. That sometimes when I do out-of-body work, I open a doorway between where my body on Earth is and where I am. In space or some other part of the world or wherever I am.
You're kind of, you want to finish up, you only got like a minute or 2 tops left, so
okay,
you want to finish wrapping up the picture story part, and then we'll do Mars next.
Yeah, let's do the
You got anything else to say about the picture business?
No, other than that it showed what he could do
Yeah.
by shifting reality at a whim.
All right, cool. All right, we'll have to start Mars in the next one.
Let's start the next one.
Okay.
Well, I've still got it fresh in my mind.